All right, everybody, welcome back. And this week we're going to pick another three universities to take a look at. So let's see what we got up for this week. So please select three random entries from this list. And I updated the list based around the ones we did last week. So now we have the University of Arkansas, Kent State, and the University of Delaware. So I'll be back with the Razorbacks. All right, so let's take a look at one from the University of Arkansas. Um, I normally try to shy away from medical devices because I don't really, I've had some experiences with them that make me understand that it is very difficult to commercialize medical devices. But there's a lot of problems that need to be solved in medicine. Yeah. So there are normally a lot of technologies associated with them. This one seems very clear cut on what it's supposed to do and what its benefits are. So the thing here is an optical sensing platform for synovial, I'm assuming that's how you say that, fluid analysis. Again, I'm not a doctor. I had to look up what this means. But basically, there's a specific kind of septic arthritis, which is basically your joint being inflamed by a bacterial infection. Uh, and apparently, what people do is they go and take a physical sample, so they syringe it out and run it down to a lab. Stat, I guess, is what they call that in the medical world, and it can take about a half an hour to an hour to get results for it. But during that time, if you're a kid, you have to be under anesthesia the whole time, or if you're an adult, you're just kind of waiting around in the waiting room with this extraordinarily painful joint to see if that's what's causing it. So this technique basically is a way of detecting whether or not the fluid from this, not exactly biopsy, but fluid draw from a joint is indicative of a septic arthritis, uh, inflammation infection. That doesn't make any sense. So very clear cut test, very clear cut use case, very clear cut benefit. Um, that seems to be faster. All right, so you're saving half an hour or an hour of what could be a life-threatening situation. Uh, Pretty clear benefit, right? So I think that is a pretty clear-cut case for something that would be interesting, but medical devices are hard. You have to go through FDA approval. You have to run clinical trials. You have to have all kinds of additional things. It's not clear to me in, the temporary uh, research that I do on this how prevalent some of these infections are or what their mortality rate is and how much that half an hour to an hour makes a difference for patients because that's really the key question. But I'm guessing if you're a surgeon, you'd be able to answer that. So, very simple proposition, clear cut use case, clear cut benefit. Whether the benefit actually solves a problem that people are worried about, I guess, is the question. And then whether there's a large enough market to justify going through clinical trials and running an FDA and getting FDA approval um, is also a question. So, in any case, that's the one from the University of Arkansas, talking about a much faster test for septic arthritis. So next up, we have the university that is closest to me, actually, or at least the physically closest to me. So Kent State, the other KSU, is up next. We'll go find something from them. All right, so it appears we have our first university that doesn't actually have a list of technologies available. Um, it's ironic because I have a lot of ties to Kent State, including my wife getting her graduate degree from here. So, as far as I can tell, you would have to email them in order to get access to their list of technologies. So there is this license available technologies, but there's no link. I spent a decent amount of time looking around for one. I think in the past I have reached out to them, and a lot of their technologies are based around like liquid crystal displays. So apparently they have a lot of like liquid crystal researchers at Kent State. If you're interested, then by all means, go ahead and reach out to them. If I remember correctly, they were pretty responsive. But that was 5 or 6 years ago was the last time I reached out to them for something. And, I'm sure they won't be the only ones that don't have a easily available technology license list. But for now, we'll count them as having been looked at and go find another one. But first, we will take a look at the University of Delaware as the third one for the week. So, sorry, I guess I couldn't easily find anything from Kent State like I have for literally everything else so far. But with Delaware, we should be able to find some. So I'll go take a look for them and I'll be back in a second. All right, so here is one from the University of Delaware. You'll notice we're back in Flint box, and we have this nice blue color this time rather than the shades of red I think we had previously. Um, so this is a type of sensor to detect Vibrio parahemolyctus, something like that. So, uh, ironically, not a medical device, but another thing that would probably have to be approved by the Food and Drug Administration because they are also responsible for food quality. Um, but I guess we'll have that as a theme this week, or at least for two of them. So the argument here is that seafood is particularly susceptible to infection by this thing, Vibroparahemolyctus. I can never say these words correctly, which sounds like it causes severe gastrointestinal illness, so dysentery or food poisoning, something like that. Um, Basically, they have ways of detecting this, but they're expensive and slow and need special equipment. So this is a way of utilizing this DNA zyme, which I'm not entirely sure what that is, but I'm assuming it's like some sort of platform technology that someone at the University of Delaware has developed. Uh, and they detect it through colorimetry. So basically, it changes color and shows whether or not there is the presence of this bacteria. There are places they think it'd be useful as food safety testing, seafood processing, that kind of stuff. Makes sense. Again, not entirely sure that it is solving a necessary problem, right? There are ways to do this already, uh, but having it done in 2 hours versus however long the other ones take could be useful. Having only a very small amount of bacteria could be useful. It's pretty clear what the use case would be for this one as well. Um, I think the best way to check would be to go through the customer discovery process and try to tell if this is actually solving a problem or not. Um, you know, but very clear cut value proposition, very clear cut technology that seems like it's pretty well tested already. Just needs customer validation, is really what the underlying idea of this one is. So, uh, if you're interested in reaching out to University of Delaware regarding safeguarding food. I actually didn't click on this. There is I don't know what DSU, Delaware State. Is that actually a different university? I don't know. Haven't heard of that one. But uh, in any case, interesting technology, seemingly good use case application. And I think that it would be helpful for a very specific use case if they actually think that it is necessary. So, next up, I'll be back on the AI list trying to find a replacement for Kent State for the week. So I'll be back in a second with that. All right, so I updated the list by taking out those three, and we're just going to do please select one random entry from this list. Oh, wait. I accidentally only copied the first page. That's fine. We'll go with, or actually, it's only the second page. University of Cincinnati. So we'll go check out Cincy. Why not? All right, I will be right back with technology from there. All right, we are going to continue with the theme of sensors for the day. So, this one is a way of being basically a breathalyzer to check for monitoring or progression of acetone, which is apparently a biomarker for um, diabetes. So basically, it's another calorimetric. I can never say this word correctly. Colorimetric, meaning it changes color in the presence of a molecule sensor that is tied to an optical sensor that will allow uh, a check to see if there's acetone in somebody's breath. I've heard before of like dogs or even people that can smell acetone on someone's breath. So I guess it makes sense that there would be a sensor to be able to do this. But basically, they said that there's a way of uh, monitoring diabetes essentially by just blowing into it, but also has use cases in industrial processing because acetone is used in some industrial processes. Interesting idea. Hadn't really thought of that or heard of that before. So in the use case of, but there is an advantage there in that one of the things with medical devices is that if it has another use case, it's easier to develop that one first, where you don't have to go through the FDA process and try to figure out you know, how to get through all of that testing so it can fund a project if you have an industrial or a non-medical use case. So in this case, the sensor has that by uh, utilizing it in an industrial process. Um, But I thought it was interesting just because, again, it's a sensor, it's a biochemical sensor that can be used in health monitoring, which I guess is the theme for this week. Uh, and it seems like it can be used in environments where it could be potentially useful in industrial settings. So, industrial process control and environmental monitoring. It says that it's simple, low cost, high sensitive, high selective. All of that would still need to be proved out. Portability, obviously, I guess makes sense, but all of that would still need to be proved out. But this is was patent was licensed or issued in 2022. So I guess you could go talk to Miss Madison Bourbon for the physical science licensing of the University of Cincinnati, and then Dr. Angelopoulos. I assume how you say that. Uh, so is the inventor. Hopefully they'd be interested in talking. I think that's it for this week. So we checked in on the University of Arkansas, Kent State, the University of Delaware, and the University of Cincinnati to see three different um, biochemical sensors in their own right that could be useful in diabetes detection, in septic arthritis detection, and then also in the diagnosing of. I actually forgot what the University of Delaware one was already. Huh, that's kind of funny. I'll think about it 30 seconds after I'm done recording this video. But that's it for this week. I really am enjoying these, even if it seems like I'm a little bit disconnected sometimes. It's fun for me to look at this stuff and realize that there's all these potential things out there that can make people's lives better. And hopefully, someone else is getting some interest out of this. It's a really fun exercise, if nothing else. So, I'll be back next week. If you wouldn't mind leaving a like and subscribe on the video, I'd very much appreciate it. And I will see you all in a week for three new novel ideas from inventions from universities. Thanks, everybody, and have a good week.